podcast where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live from the Mappable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks, today we're going to be talking about Reg.A. And basically we're going to show you how it's done. You don't think you can do it? Well, we're going to bring on an example of a company that's doing it right now. And I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from this. So before we get into this, let's talk and introduce Vicky Hutchmala from the World Token Market. Vicky, how you doing over there today?
I'm fabulous, Ron. Like every time we do our podcast, I'm fabulous because I live in a fabulous place in Vegas, although today it kind of looks a little bit cloudy and rainy, but that's a kind of unusual thing for Vegas. Nevertheless, we have an excellent guest today, and we're going to talk about an experience going through the Reg.A process, how it worked, and why you shouldn't be afraid of going forward. So let's get started with our guest. This should be fabulous.
The Reg.A market does not care about the weather in Las Vegas, right? It just doesn't care.
But anyway, this is a true fact.
Let's get this going. Folks, let's introduce Trung Pham. Trung is the founder and the CEO of RYSE. Trung, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Ron?
Okay, good. Thanks for being on the show today. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. So before the podcast started, we had mentioned that you are out in Toronto, Canada, which is we New Yorkers call it the Canadian New York. So you got to love life out there, right? I mean, it's no Vegas, but it's pretty good, right?
Exactly. We are the mini New York, as everyone knows us for.
Yeah, and now Trung, you have a really interesting background. I was wondering maybe we could talk about yourself a little bit and how you got into this whole market and how you started RYSE.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually graduated with a business degree back in 2009. And this was during the worst time possible. It was, if anybody remembers, it was the subprime mortgage crisis. So a lot of the jobs in finance were being taken off the table. A lot of the U.S. banks were closing up offices in Canada. So it was a very, I guess it was the last recession since this COVID recession, but a very, very tough time. And that's what kind of led me down the entrepreneur path. Couldn't really find a job in finance since all the banks were shutting down and whatnot. Ended up doing some charity work, building a school in Nicaragua, came back, did my CFA for fun, and then basically entered the entrepreneur world, building a software company in the events management space before starting RYSE. And RYSE was really started out of a problem that I personally faced. I was moving into a new apartment in downtown Toronto, really spending quite a bit of money on new furniture and whatnot, and didn't really have the budget for automated shades, even though I'm one of those tech geeks that really love automated shades. So I opted for manually controlled shades. And when the summer came around a few months later, I went back to the same designer and I said, hey, I bought these shades from you a couple of months ago. I'm interested to get these motorized. And that's when I actually learned that once you install window shades, you can never automate them. You'd actually have to replace them with brand new motorized shades. And I thought that was silly. So did some Googling, turns out they were right. There was no solution out there. So did some more market research, found out there's a huge opportunity here, and that's what really led me down to starting the company. And as I mentioned, I have a finance background, so I didn't really have the engineer acumen. So my focus was really on building the company rather than the product. So really hiring the right team, getting everyone together so we could build a slew of products in the smart home and smart shades space.
Excellent.
I love that area too. It's so, like you talked about before, there's such a market for that, and everything's going automated these days. I would imagine your product does it incorporate like smartphones, smart technology as well?
Yes. So to give you a little background about the products and what we're developing as a company, our first product is a smart device that is installed on your window frame, and all it does is it controls the chains or cords of your window blinds and shades. And this is how it automates them. So you could connect with our mobile app, or you could even set schedules and routines. So, you could set something like, 7 a.m., open my window shade so I could wake up naturally to the sunshine, 8 p.m. close so I could get some privacy. You could connect it with voice speakers out in the market, Google Home, Amazon Alexa, Apple HomeKit. So it's a very smart and connected product. And, our vision as a company is to be that one brand associated with smart shades and blinds. So even though we have one product in the market today that automates anything with a corded loop or beaded chain, we do have a product roadmap that will automate everything from blinds, cordless blinds, drapes, curtains, things like that will be launched in the coming months and years.
Pham, Trung, what I really like is that you had an issue, you had a problem, there was nobody who could solve it for you, so you took the initiative and you decided to solve it for yourself. You created this great company based on solving a problem that nobody knew how to do, and now you're at the point where you're doing a Reg.A process to raise capital. Why did you decide to go that way? Why did you decide to use Reg.A as the vehicle to raise capital?
So, great question. I will be honest with you. 2020 was a tough year once when COVID hit. So what ended up happening was I had a term sheet from a VC, and we went through the entire diligence process, racked up a huge legal bill, and they basically pulled a deal in the last minute once COVID hit. So once COVID hit, our thesis at that time was like, hey, listen, we have a great product. We just secured a clean tech grant for just under $4 million Canadian. That use of funds would be to expand into the commercial real estate space. And not many people know, but if you automate window shades based on weather conditions, you could actually reduce the energy consumption in a commercial building. So that was the clean tech grant we received. And the VC says, well, listen, your thesis is to enter commercial real estate, and once COVID hit, commercial real estate was shut down. Like, everyone was working from home. There was no office space, so they basically wanted to wait. And, as a startup, we can't wait. So when they pulled the term sheet, I basically started hustling and looking at alternative financing structures in the market, and I just discovered Regulation A+. I didn't know about it. I knew somewhat about Regulation CF, but that was reserved only for U.S. corporations, and because we're Canadian, we couldn't qualify. At that time, Regulation CF, the limit was just over $1 million that you could raise every year, and we wanted to raise a much larger round. So we learned Regulation A+ was open to Canadian and U.S. corporations, and we could raise up to $50 million at that time. Now the SEC has changed it to $75 million, but we wanted to do a $15 million raise, so that's what we did. I learned a lot about Regulation A+. I found it so fascinating. And I basically met so many people in the industry that really taught me how to get started and how to launch our Regulation A+ campaign directly through our website.
Well, how did you discover the experts that you needed to help you through the process, the attorneys and the SEC people that you needed to get to the end result? How did you figure that out, or how did you go?
So I basically looked at other companies that did Regulation A+. Some of them were on the platforms like Start Engine and Seed Invest and whatnot. And I reached out to the CEOs, and the CEOs there were really supportive. They did introductions to CrowdCheck, which is our law firm. And then from there on, it was just more introductions with other players in the space. Our broker-dealer is Rialto, a great broker-dealer. Our technology platform that handles our processing is CoreConnex, and CoreConnex also has a transfer agent company under them that's our transfer agent. So all these pieces basically came together as I talked to more people in the Regulation A+ space. At the same time, I just did more Googling, learned about it, read about a lot about it, and found some great YouTube videos and conferences around Regulation A+. So it was kind of like, I would say, a blessing in disguise. Once the VC pulled the deal, I learned that Regulation A+ allowed, non-accredited investors to invest in our company. And to me, I thought that was great. I thought it was great to get our existing customers to become investors, and vice versa. As we acquire more investors, they become our customers because our product is very consumer-focused as much as it is B2B focused.
Outstanding. That's fabulous. I love it. And what's also fascinating to me is that when you reach out, when you come to a difficulty and you reach out to CEOs and different contacts and networking that you have in your network, it's fascinating that everybody is willing to help. nobody's like, oh no, I'm not going to tell you my secrets. Go figure it out yourself. But by having that ability to get information from other CEOs to piece it all together and create a strategy to go forward, that's great. Did you do a lot of marketing before the launch, or how did you go about marketing what you were trying to do to potential investors?
So I didn't do any marketing. I didn't do test the waters. I understand that is permitted. And one of the reasons why I didn't do test the waters is because we wanted to raise directly through our website. And I come from the e-commerce background in the sense that all of our historical sales, which is just over 4.5 million US, have been through e-commerce. So our company itself, we're really versed with customer acquisition and marketing to investors with Regulation A+ and general solicitation. It allows us to do the same thing. We can acquire investors using, Facebook, Instagram ads. And, my understanding of the space is that I didn't want to do testing the waters because even though you're collecting emails, the amount of those emails that convert to investors is much lower than just trying to get them to invest when we do go live. So I basically wanted to reserve all the marketing dollars so when we go live, we could just market the hell out of our raise and acquire investors as they come through our website. And that was basically the main channel of marketing today, using Facebook and Instagram ads as a means to acquire investors.
Interesting.
Yeah, you are so right about that testing the waters thing. It's both great and bad. Everyone has a great idea until it's time to write the check, and then some of these guys don't want to follow through. And if that's the case and you're not converting and you're testing the waters, it was just a waste of time, basically. So
exactly.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your experience with dealing with the SEC, though. I mean, these have to be qualified. How did that? Give us an overview on what went on.
So the SEC process was actually pretty good on our end. What took the longest was the audit. We had to do a full 2-year audit, and that took long. We had inventory, so the inventory, when you get inventory involved, the audit kind of takes time to complete. But we had great auditors based in Canada as well as they have a U.S. team. And CrowdCheck was our lawyer, so they drafted everything together. It was very seamless. CrowdCheck has so much experience doing Regulation A+ filings and whatnot. And when we submitted with the SEC only came back with one comment, which I believe was at that time the lowest amount of comments that CrowdCheck received. So they definitely, CrowdCheck, I can't say any more good things about them. They're definitely fabulous with what they do. They definitely know what they're doing. So, it was a really good, seamless experience on that end. And while the audit was getting done and while the SEC filing was getting done, I was getting all the other pieces in place, such as the broker-dealer, the technology platform, the transfer agent, and just getting everything done, by ourselves.
Yeah, that's excellent. And one comment, my God, that's a big testament to all of you guys. That's amazing because I've heard horror stories of going back and forth with the SEC, taking months and months. And I guess once it actually gets done, it's well worth it. But this is the best story I've heard so far as ease of process. Great.
Yeah. So, it was surprisingly well. Like I think when we filed, we got qualified within, I'm going to say 3 weeks or even less. It was pretty quick. It was, like very, very quick. So they our story itself as a company, there's nothing out of the ordinary. There's no outliers. Our company's like what you see is what you get kind of thing. So, we had revenue, we had good traction. I've had a lot of experience fundraising in the past, so we had a whole due diligence folder on Google Drive already set up for review from CrowdCheck. So everything was pretty seamless on our end.
Right. And you mentioned that you're using a broker-dealer as well as a transfer agent. Were you referred to those people as well, or did you do the same kind of due diligence on your own?
Yeah, it was very interesting. Like once I met one kind of group that was in the Reg.A space, and I just reached out to them, they would refer me to a broker-dealer who would then refer me to a transfer agent who would then refer me to a technology platform. So I spoke with a lot. I know the key players out there. I think everyone has their pros and cons. And then we decided to go with CoreConnex as our technology platform and transfer agent. I do know you guys did do a podcast with, I believe it was Prime Trust or Fund America.
Yep.
So CoreConnect is very similar in the sense that there are technology platforms that provides the Invest Now button, and their team is great. Oscar, their CEO over there, is great. Perhaps you guys should get him on a podcast as well, because he has his own Regulation A+ conference that they host every year. So he very well experienced in that space. I met other broker dealers. Rialto is a great one. Rialto also has an ATS, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with an ATS, but it's a automated trading platform, and it allows us to trade secondaries if we plan on doing that. So, but when you get involved in the space, you're going to meet people that are willing to share and willing to introduce you, because it's such a new space. But like every industry, it's going to grow and mature, and I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, networking is the way to go for sure, and referrals are always a great thing. So, but you brought up an interesting point. On your website, what is it? It's helloryse.com. Is that your domain?
Yeah, helloryse.com is where you could buy the product, and then invest.helloryse.com is the actual page to learn more about our Regulation A+ raise.
Right. So I noticed on that website you have an Invest Now button, and a whole. When you click that, it takes you to a little portal, I guess, on your site. So is that something that you guys built yourself? Or are you using a third-party private label type of function on that?
Yeah. So essentially, CoreConnect is the Invest Now button. So when you click Invest Now, it is a private label or a white label solution. It's within our brand. And all they are is the technology platforms that connects with the broker-dealer, that connects with our escrow bank, and facilitates that transaction. So they collect this information that our broker-dealer can use to perform the AML and KYC checks. But it is a white label solution. I've tested other platforms. I really like CoreConnect because it's very, very mobile-friendly. It's very fluid. It's very simple. And it's super fast. So coming from the e-commerce space, every second counts. So the faster the platform, the higher the conversion rates. And, I thought their platform was very simple and very easy to use.
Yeah.
So each aspect of the process to go through this, you used a third party to help you with each aspect instead of having all of it in one house marketing, one-stop shopping kind of thing. Did that create any difficulties in getting to the final stage where now you just implemented it, and now, as Ron said, you can go to your website and click on your button and invest? Did that cause problems using so many outside sources?
No, not really. You could go on the Seed Invest and the Start Engines of the world and the WeFunders and whatnot. And I think for a lot of companies, I would highly recommend that. It's a one-stop shop, as you mentioned. But with the Regulation A+ and our own online raise, because we came from the e-commerce world, we knew that the majority of the cost would be the marketing cost. And it didn't make sense for us to drive that traffic to a third-party website and get charged the fees associated with them facilitating that transaction. So, some of these sites could charge up to 7% of your entire raise, but it's mostly our marketing dollars that are driving those investors. So our thought process was, well, why not just drive them to our own website? It's actually not too difficult to implement a lot of these features. Like CoreConnect has everything kind of built in. The only cost that you'd have to spend is on developing your own landing page. But again, we came from the e-commerce world, so developing a landing page was quite easy for us. Yes. Yeah. So if you are a very technology e-commerce type of company that really understands the space, and for me, I like the aspect of control. I like to be able to control the very aspects of our funnel and the whole process with the Regulation A+. So I thought raising from our website could save us those hefty fees. At the same time, we have control of the entire process and experience for our investors.
Trung, I think if anyone's listening to this podcast right now, they should pause this podcast, rewind it 2 minutes, and listen to what Trung just said over and over and over again, because that is a huge takeaway. It is so brilliant, and it's such a great nugget that people have to understand. Why would you're spending so much money to do this? Why would you send traffic to somebody else's website? I don't understand it. At this point, maybe it worked, a year and a half, 2 years ago, but now the way you're doing it right now, I think is a no-brainer. I mean, why would anyone consider anything different these days? I'm not sure.
Exactly. I was kind of very intrigued with the whole Regulation A+ process, and I kind of created a mind map or flow chart that kind of breaks down the entire flow of funds and entire process to get set up with a Regulation A+ campaign. And I could definitely share that with you guys so you guys could share that with your community as well. But it kind of breaks down all the pieces that are required to launch a Regulation A+.
I would love to see that. That's awesome. Yeah. That would be a great resource for everybody involved here and everybody listening too. Another question you have on the Reg.A, Trung, is you guys are doing the Tier 2, right?
Yes, Tier 2.
Yeah. Did you pick Tier 2 because you have an eye in the future, perhaps accessing the capital markets on an exchange, perhaps, or is that in your plans, or you can't really talk about that, or what?
We can't technically talk about that. But Tier 2 for us was the easiest. Tier 2 is the most common one for a Regulation A+, especially a technology startup. It kind of fits the requirements of what we needed for our raise.
Right. Excellent.
Trung, when you were creating your strategy and deciding that Reg.A would be a path for you to go down and creating what you were going to do, how you were going to do it, what was the most important thing that you needed to do or wanted to do the Reg.A? I mean, once you raised the capital and you went through the process, and what was it that caused you to go through the process or cause you to decide that you needed the funds? And then once you had the funds, what was the most important thing you were going to use those funds for in terms of the future of your business?
So we looked at where we were as a company, and we had similar traction to other IoT smart home companies in our space, such as Ring or Nest, at their Series A stage. So we kind of looked at our Regulation A+ raise as a alternative to a Series A raise from a venture capitalist. And we wanted to raise $15 million. That was kind of our target. With the use of funds for new product development, we have a second gen launching this summer, and we have 2 new products that are in the pipeline as disclosed on our website. So we wanted to develop more products for our space, as well as grow our distribution channels. As I mentioned earlier, all our sales has been e-commerce, online only, and revenue is just over $4.5 million US lifetime. So that's pretty impressive considering it's online only. And in our space, online only represents 5% of the distribution channel. So if online is only 5%, what's the other bigger channels that are going to drive volume? It's going to be retail and B2B commercial sales. So that's why the second gen was important for us, so we could bake in those margins for our distribution channel partners. And that's where we wanted to go with the future products in our roadmap.
Oh, well, I think you're well down the road to get there, Trung, because all of what you've said is just going to lead you right there quickly.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And the product itself is really needed because, I mean, talk about energy efficient. This has got to be enormous for all types of climates, I would say, right? Whether it's in cold or warm weather, this is something that would save you energy on your energy bill, I would think, right?
Yes. So a lot of people don't know this, but automating your shades can save up to, from third-party research reports, you save 20% in cooling loads and up to 24, all the way up to 74% in lighting loads. And how it does this is it does this in one of 2 ways. One, you're blocking solar heat gain during hot summer season, and by doing so, you reduce indoor cooling requirements. So if you're blocking all that heat, you don't need to cool the space, and that saves a lot in cooling loads. And this is particularly true in during evenings and weekends, where in commercial buildings there's not a lot of employees or tenants in the office working. So if the window shades are open and all this sunlight's coming in, all this heat's coming in, it's causing the HVAC just to cool a space that's pretty much empty. So that's just wasted energy. And so just by simply lowering the shades, you block out that solar heat gain and reduce energy consumption. The second way we save energy is by capturing natural daylight when the weather is more bright but less solar heat gain. And when you capture natural daylight, you reduce indoor lighting requirements, and that could save a lot of energy. So these two play hand in hand, and our technology platform does that. We automate the shades to do so.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but in Las Vegas, it gets pretty hot.
Yes.
And we have a lot of high-rise buildings here in town, too. I would think this product would be amazing for this town in particular.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we have pilot programs. We have pilot programs set up with some of the largest real estate developers and landlords in the world right now, and even hotel groups. So there's definitely a need for our type of a solution in the commercial real estate markets.
Yeah, and what's really impressive too, Trung, is that it's not just a new product that you purchase and install. It's retrofitting what you already have and making it better. So you enhanced your market by new product and existing in product, which is even more impressive.
Exactly. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And I have a couple more questions before we close this out. One is, again, let's get back to the investor perspective. They're going to invest into your company through a Regulation A. They're going to invest at a certain dollar amount per share. How is that dollar amount per share evaluated? How do you guys do that?
So this is essentially what the investment bankers and everyone else does. But people assume the share price, high share price means the company's too expensive. That's not the case. It's really just based on the number of shares outstanding and the valuation you have. So, we're raising at a $32 million pre-money valuation. And if you divide that by the number of shares, then you'll get the share price. So if we have more shares outstanding, the share price will be lower. If you have less shares outstanding, share price will be higher. So the share price is just a representation of the valuation. That's, I guess, how I could explain it.
Got it. Yeah. And for all these CEOs out there that are listening to this right now, they may want to go Reg.A. What I really like about this podcast is that, you're an example of somebody who really didn't know too much about Reg.A., just kind of stumbled onto it late in its, quote, lifestyle. But, you did your research, and now you're at the point where you're actually, moving forward with this. Can you give, a prospective CEO an idea as far as what a time frame they should be looking at from maybe start to finish, and maybe an idea, just a ballpark about what it would cost overall to get this whole thing going?
Yeah, so I think if a CEO knows absolutely nothing and they're really motivated to learn, they could get everything done within 6 months. I would say 6 months is a pretty good time frame. Again, it depends what the SEC comes back with, any comments. It depends how long their audit takes. But I'm going to say 6 months because our audit took longer. I do know other companies out there might already have an auditor, and they might be able to whip an audit much sooner. So it could be less than 6 months. But I think 6 months is a pretty good time frame. The fees itself, there's two primary fees that you'll incur prior to launch. One is going to be the legal fees that CrowdCheck and other lawyers will charge. Two is going to be the audit fees. So I would say have at least $100K US for these fees to get started and launched. That's my recommendation. Even if you launch on your website or through a third-party platform like a Seed Invest or Start Engine or Republic.
Yeah, makes sense. Because
I do want to give another analogy. So if you actually run a Series A with a VC, the fees are very, very much the same. The difference is that the fees in the VC round are typically during the back end. So when you close the round, you pay those legal fees and the audit fees and whatnot. But you could compare a Regulation A plus similar to a Series A cost in terms of fees.
Right. And these days with the Regulation A, I mean, if you can pull that off, it's so much better than going VC. Why? They want so much of your company. You might as well, keep it yourself or give it to your clients and your customers, right?
Exactly. So I think another kind of favorable thing with the Regulation A plus is that you're basically, the fate of your company is in your own hands. You control that. You set the terms of the deals, and it's up to the investors, the thousands of investors that want to invest, if they want to invest or not. So by controlling the structure of the deal, you have more control over the fate of your company rather than give up board seats and dilution into a VC group.
Yeah. Yeah, and was there ever a time in this process where it got to a point where you got frustrated with something and you kind of threw your hands up and said, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't go this way"? Or it sounds like you've been pretty clean with this whole process.
I'm going to say from a CEO's perspective, there's always going to be challenges and problems that come up, but that's your job as a CEO, and your job is there to fix these problems and resolve these issues. And if challenges come up, like term sheets get pulled, your back is pushed against the wall. You got to find a solution, and that's basically what we did. So even though there's always frustrations and challenges on a day-to-day basis, it's your job as a CEO to maintain that confidence, maintain that strong morale, and move the company forward, find the right solution, and that's what we did with our Regulation A+.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this is a really impressive story. I'm really glad that you are on the podcast today because I really want people to understand that this is possible. It's not something that's pie in the sky. Only major bankers can do this. Like, no, if you're a CEO, you want to explore this route. You're a great example of someone who can do it and get it to the point where your company is investable with an Invest Now button on your website. That's incredible. And you did it in 6 months. My God, you should come to Vegas.
I would love to come to Vegas once the borders reopen. I'll definitely pay you a visit in Vegas. We should definitely go for some drinks.
We're going to hold you to it.
Oh, you know what?
We will remember.
I was always in Vegas during CES, but since the borders shut down, and everything went digital. I haven't been to Vegas for a while.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, so before we close this out, let's how does somebody get a hold of you? Trung, if they want more information or if they want information on how to invest or whatever, what do they do?
Just go to invest.helloryse.com or helloryse.com, and they'll be able to see me. There's actually a chat function on the website as well, and just by clicking that, they could actually go to our website and chat with me there. I'm actually the one handling those conversations, so definitely reach out there. Another note I do want to mention that's very interesting, and I think we're one of the first companies doing this, and this might interest you guys because you guys also talk about crypto, but we started accepting crypto as a form of payment for our equity shares in the company on the Regulation A+.
Wow.
So an investor could go on our website, invest with Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, or Ethereum, and it's essentially crypto to fiat. So even though they're investing with crypto, we receive cash because it converts at the time of the transaction.
Very good. We'll have to do another podcast, Trung, and you can tell us how that works.
Oh, definitely.
So Vicki, how impressed are you about this story?
I am so impressed, Ron. This is I love these kind of stories where you take a problem that you had and take that problem, not only resolve it, not only create the product to resolve it, but now take it to the next level where you're doing a Reg.A to raise capital, and then take it to the next level and go out on the blockchain and come into the 21st century. This is fabulous. This is what I love about business, and this is what I love about people like Trung who have the insight and the vision and the strategy to make it happen. I do have one question, though, Trung. Was it all worth it?
Oh, definitely. Great learning experience and great experience with the Regulation A+ so far.
You did an outstanding job. Congratulations to you. And I think that if anybody can take anything from this podcast on going forward, that one thing that you said that was vitally important in my mind is that do as much due diligence, understand the process, and put together as much information as you can so once you start the process, you already have what you need to go through the process, which will make it easier, make it dealing with the SEC much less stressful, and get to your goal much quicker. The more you put into the strategy ahead of time, the easier it will be, and then you're just sitting back counting the money that you can spend.
Exactly.
I think it's fabulous. Congratulations to you, Trung. You did a fabulous job.
Yes,
I appreciate
absolutely. It. Yep. Thanks so much for being a guest on the show today. And Vicki, thanks so much for co-hosting the podcast with me today. Folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableusa.com. If you go to that website, you scroll down on that homepage, You'll see all our syndication sources. There's a lot of them. Just pick the one that you like best and subscribe, and you'll never miss another one of our episodes. If you want to be a guest on the show like Trung was today, there's a guest tab on that website. Fill it out. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, send us an email, info@mappableusa.com, or just leave a comment on whatever page you're listening to this on right now. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. We'll be at you next time with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.